We're talking Rogue Genesia, the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strikes, the THQ showcase, including news on Gothic, Titan Quest 2, and an unnamed Darksiders project, as well as more Abiotic Factor and Odd Realm.
Now, Andy, Nick's here to remind you that our audience is highly trained professionals and they do not need to hear this.
Hi, I'm Josh. You stay golden, pony boy.
And my name's Andy. Make sure you stick around to the very end of the show where we talk Half-Life 3. Well, it's been a while
Since I've been on the Tango Podcast Live.
Yeah.
We just got demonetized.
Nope, because if I have to remove that, I will, because fuck Stained. That band sucks. So,
Hello.
we have been gone for a couple weeks.
We like to keep you guessing.
Yeah, for sure.
Are they alive? Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows? We are. Turns out we are. We've
We're
talked
just
about
like
this
your
before.
dad who went out for cigarettes. When is he coming back? Sometimes he did.
We go out for DLC
Sometimes they
sometimes.
That's true. Again, we do this thing for fun, so sometimes life gets in the way and we have to remove fun from our lives because life is just like that. So, every now and then, gonna miss a couple. But we are back, as far as we know.
I want you to
should be
know,
back on
loyal
track.
listener, that it's never my fault.
Yeah, that's
It's true. It
pretty
never is his
genuinely
fault,
true.
but he certainly complains a lot. We can't ever blame Josh, but we can side-eye him.
For sure. So hey, we're going to talk about some video games. Nick, why don't you get us started with some video games?
Yes. I have video game I've been playing recently. I was looking for something cheap, something to fill the time, something to turn my brain off to, and summer blockbuster, butts and seed style game. And I found it. I've seen this
For
a couple
a second
times.
there, it sounded like you were describing a prostitute.
This
Something
is the
cheap,
prostitute
something to
of
fill the
roguelites.
time.
Yeah. No, I've seen this game for a while, a couple years now, on some of my little indie gamers YouTube videos, and it has come a long way. It is very impressive how far this game has come with such a small team. It might even be one person. I believe it is. This game is Rogue Genesia. Genesia. Gene S-I-A.
Genesia.
You know Sia, the artist? Imagine her with a dagger and genetics.
And also spelled different.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell Sia. What is this game? Vampire servers like Busted Build, Bullet, Heaven. This game does nothing entirely new, but what it does do at an immense scale with a lot of features. So if you know whatever you want to call them, Bullet Heavens, reverse shoot 'em ups, vampire servers, like this is one of those. What does this game do that's worth noting? It has more meta progression than I think I've ever seen in any video game. At least it's tied. It's up there. Some people hate meta progression in their roguelites. Some people love it. And I only really bring it up because I know a lot of people are probably familiar with this if you're into the genre, but it's just kind of really flown under the radar. And having just picked it up, they just had a major patch, version 0.10, one of the biggest patch notes I've seen for any video game. And it just has so much stuff to do. And if you want a game that you're like, I have 10 minutes, I have 20 minutes, I have 30 minutes to kill, where you experience trying out a new thing, this is that for the roguelike games. A lot of the meta progression comes through achievements, which are kind of fun to hunt for, like maxing out a weapon or getting one stat ridiculously high. That nice balance of taking what RNG throws at you and trying to min-max it is there. Like I said, doesn't really do anything super new, but what it does do, it does really well. It runs smoothly. I'm playing out on a relatively older PC and really don't have any problem until sometimes if I really pop off with the build late game, it can get a little kaleidoscopy to say I do get some frame loss. That just means I'm doing really well. And I really like it. It's, I think, $7. I had the price wrong. $6.92 right now until August 17th, so the day after this podcast releases. If you like roguelites at all and you haven't seen or heard this game or played it, do give it a check out. It is worth your time. It is up there in the upper echelon of probably top 5, 10 roguelites available right now. So recommend it.
Excellent.
Yeah, it has a lot more to do than like your standard bullet hell that we've been seeing recently. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Speaking of a hell of sorts, we're entering the 4th week of the SAG-AFTRA video game actors strike. So they were out there today, swinging the signs, making the picket lines, out in front of WB. Tomorrow, they're going to be outside of the Disney character voices located at 2600 West Olive Avenue in Burbank, California, from 9 to noon. So if you find yourself in the Burbank area, well, go on down. Tell Disney how you feel about video games or whatever, honestly. Just, whatever. Give them a time.
I hate hot dogs.
Yeah, honestly, for sure. Let them have it. Now, so the picket line tomorrow is going to be attended by some of the SAG-AFTRA union's heavy hitters. The IMA negotiating committee chair, Sarah Elmala, I'm sorry. She's going to be there, as well as Duncan Crabtree Ireland, who, I mean, we've all grown familiar with seeing him over the last couple of years. Absolutely. So what happened? Why are they doing it? Now, they went on strike the 26th of July because they honestly could not come to an agreement on AI. What it means for motion cap actors, what it means for voice actors. Every time an agreement's put forward, the largest companies in video games, so we're talking Activision, EA, WB Games, Disney, Take-Two, a few other folks. Every time a good faith offer is put forward, there's a loophole that allows them to no, we get to use this. We're just copying this, so we don't ever have to pay you again. So they're literally just trying to squeeze the human element out of video games as much as they can. If Take-Two, WB Games, if these companies have their way, what a human does will be nothing more than a data point. And that's ultimately the goal that they're trying to get down to. Literally the same argument that voice actors in the film industry and actors in TV were striking about. So this is important. Video games is a larger industry than the film industry by a large margin.
Yep.
So this is important because everywhere AI gets its foothold in is one more nail in the coffin to a human being able to be creative and make money at it. We're seeing it all. I mean, everywhere else, from writing to making art, whether it's digital art or hell, they'll probably have a robot arm out there painting a Picasso here pretty soon. To acting, to voice acting, to now motion capture. Some of these people, they are trained stunt actors that have trained for years to be able to climb up a wall or have a combat fight. Do you know why those fights in that Star Wars the twins, why those or the fight with the Sith when they're landing in with Darth Malgus and all that stuff? It's awesome because they used motion cap actors to actually do that fight in real life and then transfer it to CGI. And we're going to lose that. Mm-hmm. That's just going to be not a thing anymore. So this strike is important and deserves to have your attention and your support. Now, besides the strike, there are, of course, much like anything, an exception to the rule. Now, there are a few games that are already... Dang it, I lost my place here. There are already a few exceptions to this rule, games that are being excluded from the strike and that people are still allowed to work on, or maybe, in some cases, forced to work on when they would rather be on the picket line. So any video game that's been developed, that's been in development as of a year ago, including for now, live service games. So according to statements from both SAG-AFTRA and companies, the strike will hit, first shared by Kotaku. So looking down the release schedule, this isn't going to affect a lot of things coming into 2025, but much like the TV and film industry, every day, heartburn, every day that strike went on, delayed one day of production. So while 2025 releases are pretty safe, anything after that is, of course, being affected by this strike, as it should. That's what a strike does, right? It's supposed to inconvenience things. Yeah. So, we're going to see how it goes, but some other big things is Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the new Assassin's Creed Shadows game, the new Dragon Age game. These are all Grand Theft Auto 6. These are all big name titles that are being excluded from this strike. Because, I mean, I know it's tough to hear, but like honestly, if we want to have games like Baldur's Gate 3, if we want to have games that are not just a money siphon, we need to expect something like GTA 6 to be delayed, because that would hit Take-Two and the Nards so fucking hard that they would have to consider. They'd have to consider, right? So honestly, I know as consumers, I mean, do you know how long I've been waiting for GTA 6? I've purchased GTA 5 4 fucking times, for crying out loud.
He's bought GTA 20 at this point.
I'm in.
And 6 isn't even
right?
out.
So, I'm glad it's happening, and I support it. And we honestly need big titles like Assassin's Creed, like GTA 6, like Black Ops. We need those titles to be delayed. So
a couple things. One, I want current Josh to tell me what he would say to past Josh in regards to, think about how far you've come in your opinions on video games and the video game industry since we got you into PC gaming. And you go talk to Josh from 2016 and explain to him that you are willing to wait even longer for GTA 6 for something that probably wouldn't even occur to you back then. Like, how do we get through to people who do not give a shit about this issue and just are going to go to the store and buy it day one and not read anything about this? Like, think on that. And while you think on that, I'm going to tell you, dear audience, when you hear stuff like these strikes happening, what the hell are you supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I don't live in Burbank, California. I don't work in this industry. Well, there is something very, very simple and easy you can do, especially when it comes to boycotting things in this world where we rarely have a good choice about it. All you have to do is, before you go buy a game, open up Google and ask, is X game made with AI? Right? And if it is, if they used AI in the art or the sound design or voiceover or whatever, just don't buy it. There are other games you can buy. And that is probably, I hate to say it, in my opinion, going to do more for the delay of AI and stuff than any picketing's going to do, right? I think they're doing a great job and fantastic work and honest, moral, righteous stuff down there. But it's my personal opinion that this is just a slowing down of what's inevitably going to happen if people keep just mindlessly buying products with AI in them, right? So do your part. Just look it up and say, did they replace human labor with low quality AI garbage? Buy another game. I recommend games almost every podcast that are cheap. You can play one of those.
I mean, we're talking about a few of them today.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who is like a console gamer only that doesn't follow this stuff? Like, you have any advice or anything you would put that might help?
Yeah, I would say think of that game that, like, I mean, I'm assuming people here have at least played, like maybe the 360, maybe it's Xbox that was your first console. Mine was the Nintendo. But so let's use maybe Xbox as your first console. Think of Halo, and the first time that you played Halo, or maybe it's a Grand Theft Auto, maybe it is a Grand Theft Auto game, maybe it's Red Dead, maybe it's, I mean, I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's fucking Madden. Who fucking knows? But the first time you played that was a group, and that feeling that you got, that came from a group of like 60 humans working in a coordinated effort to provide that fucking moment of joy. And, you know, I don't know, like art and inspiration and feel like that kind of feeling that doesn't come, you can maybe get it from like a machine because you're playing on one, obviously, but the creation of that feeling does not come from a machine. It like, you know, like when you look, I don't know, when you look at art, I don't know, like the machine shit just doesn't look as good. There's something wrong with the hands, right? Like it just, I don't know, like the music doesn't, AI music, I can tell when it's AI music. It's obvious that it's AI music. It's getting harder to tell, but it just, I don't know, man. The first time you heard a Beatles song, imagine just fucking AI recreating that. That just, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, even saying it. So I would just tell myself, remember that feeling, and that comes from people, not
Robots don't have feelings.
When's the last time you got emotional over a machine?
Toasters don't cry. Okay.
Well, dude, the brave little toaster does, brother.
Oh, well,
yeah, but he was hand animated.
he was hand animated by a person.
You know what? He was hand animated. Let me tell you.
His brain, his courage, his inspiration, that all came from people.
Yeah, leave AI to the memes, not to the art.
Yeah.
You AI any meme you want. I don't give a shit. Just don't pay money for it. Moving on.
Moving on. Hey, so video games. THQ Nordic.
Thick
Nordic. That's
Why did we?
that's exactly my
Thick
tax.
Nordic.
About the way you said that.
From now on, it's Thick Nordic. Thick Nordic had a presentation where they showed off a whole bunch of new games, whether they're developing or publishing or both. A couple that I'd like to talk about, some standout titles. Ones that I'm personally excited for.
Stand out the game.
No, Standout 2 is by a different developer.
Oh.
So mostly these are going to be remakes and old IP. So we're getting sequels. But THQ Nordic is there. I mean, THQ Nordic almost went under not too long ago. So they're definitely having to attach themselves to old IP and to bring themselves back up. I do hope they can do that because they have brought us excellent titles in the past.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So in an effort, it seems, to revitalize the company, they are giving us some remakes and some sequels. However, I'm excited about these remakes and sequels. The first one of which being Gothic. Now, this is a game that I remember. This is a game that I know I have seen played at the very least. But I don't know that I don't remember playing it. That said, what I've read about it and the content that I have recently absorbed has me excited for this. It is effectively a third-person ARPG with survival elements. The first game came out in, if I remember right, 2001.
Yeah.
That's a while.
Yeah. So if you're to look back at the games that we were playing in 2001, this was way ahead of its time. It's an ARPG with not just crafting and stuff, but like literal survival elements. You have to kill stuff and get its meat and cook it and actually survive, which I think is awesome. So again, way ahead of its time, and it looks like they're doing like a pretty massive remaster of this thing. So the graphics look like probably Unreal Engine 4, maybe UE5. They're nothing to write home about. They're good looking, but you know, they're not like next gen. They're not what you expect out of 2026. That said, it does look good. From what I've seen, it plays well, and I think it's something to look forward to. And it's coming from THQ Nordic. I think that's a good cause. That said, I am looking forward to playing this version because I don't think there's any way I'm going back and playing Gothic. Not only does it look, like a 2001 game with 2001 issues, but it also just it's hard to find. So the original Gothic is not on Steam. I didn't see it on GOG. That may change here in the near future, being that there's some hype building around the Gothic remake. But boy, oh boy, when these games were announced, the chat lit the fuck up. In fact, all the trailers leading to this one that they showed off at the showcase, everybody was like, "Where's Gothic? Can we get Gothic? Oh my God, are they going to be talking about Gothic?" And for the first time since 2001, they are. So it seems like the people that, at least the people that are in the game space, because I don't imagine there's a whole lot of casual players in the THQ Nordic showcase. But it looks like gamers are excited for this, which has me pretty excited for this. A lot of like-minded people. THQ Nordic was really popular years and years ago. Again, brought us some great games in the early and mid 2000s, and since then have kind of dwindled. That said, it looks like we're bringing back one of the kind of golden era of games in this remaster. So I'm excited to check it out. I'm going to be keeping track on its progress as it's being developed. And yeah, this is something that I'm looking forward to seeing further developments on.
Something to point out, because watching that footage and us talking about it earlier, I vaguely remember Gothic, and I think I remember why it's vague. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking it up. Okay, what else came out like right around the turn of the millennium?
Golden Age.
Dungeon Siege,
yeah.
Nox, was it Arcanum of Steamworks and Obscura, shit like Dark Cloud,
Dark
Phantasy
Cloud.
Star Online. Mm-hmm. Now we had Diablo 2, we had Icewind Dale, Vagrant Story, Demon Souls, Mass Effect, Fallout 4, right? Those were the big ones. But if you know video game history well, you can see how there was this alternate non-Harambe timeline where as 3D games became more and more accessible and easy, the RPG genre was in this quantum flux state. Like, where do we go after, it's been 3-4 years since the 3D revolution. We still have people that want D&D style heavy narrative, heavy lore, heavy player choice and agency games, but they're becoming less and less popular. And that really early 2000s era of games like Gothic means that pretty much everyone has probably heard of Gothic.
Yeah.
But it wasn't this breakout game because it sat in this nebulous space of kind of like weird third-person RPG action game. And like because of that, it's like a cult hit, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were into that kind of game, Gothic was amazing at the time. Like if you played Gothic, you probably played Nox, you probably played Arcanum, right? These are all games vaguely in the same genre. And it's neat to see it's getting a remake. I mean, it's not great that like THQ is having to resort to remaking Gothic and these kind of things, but I hope it works well for them, and at the very least, I hope they do a good job so that even if things don't go well, it's good for video game history, right? It's good for the people to enjoy the game.
For sure.
Get to re-experience that, maybe show it to their kids that get to play it and aren't turned off by the old UI and controls and graphics,
Because one thing I do appreciate about remakes, and we were talking a little bit before the podcast about this, is I am one that does not mind remakes as long as it doesn't detract from the development of new IP or new ideas or new games. I don't mind remakes, especially when there are some changes like UI and convenience features and modernizing the game to make it digestible for a new audience. I think that's totally fine. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth comes to mind. There isn't a 13-year-old in the world that's going to be going back and playing Final Fantasy VII.
No.
And to give them that experience in an enhanced way that is palatable for the modern gamer, I think is totally okay. What I don't care for when it comes to remakes and remasters is what we've been seeing in recent years, where you get 2 years maybe, or a single console cycle between remakes and remasters. That's where I have a problem with it. That's where it's just clear money grabs. Now, this obviously, THQ Nordic is hoping it's successful. Their business might even hinge on its success at some level. So I think the timing here is fine. It's been 23 years since this game came out.
Yeah, see, that seems like a time for a remaster because it was when it came out ahead of its time. I'm looking at it now, and that to me looks like the first time I saw The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
You know, that's graphic level wise, that's kind of what I'm looking at, right, guys? Like for those of y'all just listening, and the combat looks fairly smooth. It looks fairly exciting. I didn't play Gothic.
Yeah, it was before your PC time.
Yeah, well before my PC time. 2001, I might have still been rocking like a GameCube or an Xbox, right?
It's kind of like a proto Skyrim that leans heavier into the D&D style play than Skyrim did, right?
And so this is the thing that needs a remaster, because it was in like I'm saying, that quasi nebulous state of being 3D but in a third person. That's old hand now. So something that was new and fresh then, but couldn't benefit. It didn't have the technology to benefit its true vision, right? True potential. Its true potential. Now that's there, and they get to do it at, like you said, it's looking like 4. Like you said, oh my god, I'm brain farting.
You're talking about
graphically wise, Unreal Engine 4.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, and they're doing it at like, because you know UE5's got to be expensive, so they're doing it a little bit cheaper. But this is awesome. That's way cool.
Yeah.
I'm a similar mind, mildly parallel. For me, there's two kinds of remakes and remasters. One of them is because the game is such a pillar of video game history, or it was so well made, whether that's gameplay or story or whatever, that it deserves to be played by newer generations. And the other one is because it's so well loved, right? So I personally don't care if remakes and remasters eat into novel IP design. What I do care about is when remakes and remasters are made badly. I was just Googling it, thinking back, the Silent Hill collection, Warcraft 3 Reforged, GoldenEye 007. I didn't even know they remastered that.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, all you're doing is a lose-lose situation. You're making a bad remake and remaster. You're spending money on it for games that tend to have a small niche audience, and then you're wounding that small niche audience by making a bad remaster. Like, it's one thing to try to remaster Warcraft 3, but like if THQ Nordic for whatever reason just decides to shit the bucket on this, like you just shot yourself in the foot. Like, it's a relatively niche game. Like, I don't expect them to, but the number of remakes and remasters the recent handful of years, just by how numbers work, a lot of them are going to be bad. And that's what pisses me off the most. It's like, why waste the time? Why waste the money? Why get everyone's hopes up? You know, we think of stuff like Dragon's Dogma. It had some clap back, but like really cool of them to try their hand at remastering that game. But then you have people that are just trying to make money, like Blizzard with Warcraft 3 Reforged and the Diablo 1 remaster and whatnot.
Or whoever the heck's doing the KOTOR remake at this point.
Or whoever does the fucking Rockstar ports and remasters.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Take your time. I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to make a good game.
Yeah.
Like, it
Well, you're just wasting money.
Yeah.
You're wasting money and time.
Yeah,
You're
stop
wasting
it.
everybody's time.
Get some help.
Leave a note.
Well, hey, there's more games to talk about.
Yeah.
Still THQ Nordic. 2 more games from them. The next one on the docket is Titan Quest 2, which nobody expected.
No, not at all.
From the same era that we were just talking about Gothic, came a game called Titan Quest. And Titan Quest was a relatively early action RPG that was supposed to be like the Diablo killer, right? It never obviously killed Diablo. Diablo and Diablo 2 were just...
That setting looks cool.
Wonderful.
Oh,
games.
that setting looks really cool.
Oh, yeah.
It's Greek. The whole game is Greek inspired.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like ancient Greece, yeah.
Now, the game Titan Quest didn't do anything like mind-bogglingly new. But what it did is give you like a really clean Diablo-like experience. If you were to compare Diablo 2, or even further, go back to Diablo 1, the sheer amount of creatures on screen, we're talking in terms of tens, right? smaller numbers. You can tell what's going on screen. Whereas modern Diablo 3 and 4, it's just a loot fiesta. It's more numbers on screen than there are characters. This is definitely not that. This lies somewhere in between. It still manages to throw a good number of threatening creatures at you, but that's the kind of the key word there is they are threatening. The mobs they throw at you are threatening by themselves. They don't need to be in waves of 1,000 in order to be threatening. The big difference here between other modern ARPGs is that it is not a calculator simulator. It isn't just a screen full of numbers, a little bit of lag, and your health bar moves back and forth between 5% and 100% at like 90,000 frames per second. It's not that. There's a little bit more wonder, a little bit more mystique, and a little bit more elegance, I think, in Titan Quest, and it looks like Titan Quest 2 possibly, than there ever was like the Diablo franchise.
Couple of things.
Yeah.
One, looked it up. Surprising numbers. Titan Quest 1 sold roughly 1 million copies. Diablo 2 sold roughly 4 million copies.
Wow. That's
Probably 20 million people played it,
yeah,
if you catch my drift.
for sure.
But yeah, I was surprised to see that.
It sold 1 million.
Yeah. No, that's a much smaller margin than I thought it would be.
And at the very least, it didn't get the Torchlight experience,
Yeah.
which is ported off and IP sold to a Chinese company that made a horrible mobile version of Torchlight 3.
Right.
Yeah. A Titan Quest 2, it's very strange for a lot of reasons. And if you've played the game back in the day, you'll understand why. Titan Quest had the novel idea of instead of picking a class, you pick 2.
Yeah.
And then you can level each one up and their skills would kind of meld together or have combos and whatnot, which meant that was 6 classes or 8 if you had the DLC. There's a lot of different combos you could play. At times, especially later on, and especially in the DLC, you did get screens full of enemies.
Sure.
But that was kind of late game. Slower ramping. And like games of that era, you were not designed to be super powered at the start. There's no DLC to buy or freemium battle pass shit that would power you up, make things faster.
There was no online auction house.
Yeah. There was online. There was multiplayer.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
But yeah, it's weird because Titan Quest 1, it was solid and it had that novel class system, but there wasn't anything else that was really mind-blowing about it other than it was a fun game and it was solid.
Yeah.
There has been multiple games now, even in that genre, that have dual class systems. Grim Dawn comes to mind, and they've done it very well. So we were talking about on the balcony. It's like, I really don't know where Titan Quest 2 is going to go.
Yeah.
Like the trailer they showed was fine, but it's very clearly early.
It's early.
Like that was almost a little too early, other than they were excited to announce the game, or maybe their hand was forced.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really don't know how to feel about it other than like, I guess fingers crossed. I played the shit out of the first one.
Yep.
And yeah, like you were saying, dude, it's fully
I like
Greek
the setting,
Roman.
that Greek Latin.
You get gladiuses,
Roman setting.
spathas,
Awesome.
pilums.
I'll tell you what they should be aiming for is there is a bunch of people that are disappointed with Diablo 4.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that are disappointed with Diablo Immortal, right? You give people a Diablo 2 experience, like, come on.
To be fair,
Come
that's Grim
on.
Dawn, but
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, with a reasonably priced game, if they reasonably price it and there's no bullshit battle pass stupid stuff, I think people will go for it, man.
I don't know how you price a game like that, because if it's over $30, they're going to have to offer some ridiculously awesome stuff to compete with stuff like Grim Dawn, which is not expensive, Path of Exile, which is free, right?
Yep.
It's like, oh, weird situation to be in.
Yeah. I still think it mostly caters to fans of the genre. It's
Open
another one
it
to play in the
modern
genre.
Community.
It's
Make it fully supported. And that's worth $40.
Speaking of which, next podcast, I'm going to talk about that EU bill. I want to read more
Sure,
about
definitely.
it. Stop Killing Games initiative.
I definitely want to be more learned on the subject before we bring it up.
Do it with us, audience, real quick. Google Stop Killing Games initiative, and you can catch up with us. We'll talk about it next week.
Yep.
What else we got to talk about?
I've got one more game from THQ Nordic,
full
and this
bladder.
is real quick because there's almost no information on it right now.
Act 7.
No. So I'm a big fan of, I would not say the Darksiders franchise. I am a big fan of the original Darksiders. I played the shit out of that game multiple times through. It is like Gothic evil Zelda,
Yeah.
and it is incredible. I don't think
If
there
Link
are.
owned a Harley Davidson.
It doesn't do anything crazy or doesn't do anything new. It's just a very hyper stylized action adventure platformer. It is excellent. No notes on the first Darksiders. It was difficult, but it had power ups and a leveling system, and I found the game to be incredible.
The combat was kind of DMC like, right?
It was,
But then the
I
gameplay
love
itself
that.
was very Zelda.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So
Nice
it
combo.
mixes a couple different franchises essentially that I hold near and dear to my heart. I love big ass combo systems, and it's got that. I love big ass weapons, and it's got that. And I love
weapons.
like War's
Move the
sword is
hyphen.
huge. Now, Darksiders 2 came out, and I didn't care for it as much, only specifically because it didn't feature War as the main protagonist. Darksiders 3 came out, and it
War
got kind
never
of
changes.
it got kind of middling reviews.
he does need a
Unfortunately, it seems like the Darksiders enjoyers liked Darksiders 3, but
From what I vaguely remember, they just strayed too far away from the formula.
yeah,
And
100%.
tried to do too much stuff, and
Yep.
it got weird.
Yeah. So it does look like this teaser is teasing the first Darksiders. Now, there's good reason to imagine that it is not a remaster because they have already done that with the first two games. They've done Darksiders War Mastered Edition. That is the remaster of the first Darksiders. They've done Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition, which is the remaster for Darksiders 2, both of which are on sale right now. In fact, the whole THQ Nordic catalog is on sale up to 90% off. So if you want to experience any of the games that we talked about in their original format and form, go check those out. It's a couple really incredible games. But yeah, they're teasing. It looks like a follow-up to the original Darksiders, and I'm all about it, baby.
There's 3 faces. Maybe they're redoing Darksiders 3. Like, sorry, that sucked.
Well, there were 3 faces in the first Darksiders, and the way Darksiders 3 ended, without being too spoilery, featured those 3 faces as well, which hinted at Darksiders 1 continuation. So I'm personally very excited. I'm hoping that this is a follow-up to the first Darksiders and not the 4th one. Or maybe it's the 4th one and it's really fucking good. Either way, I'm pretty happy.
All right. My last thing?
Yep.
Okay. If you haven't heard about it, if you have a PC, if you have a friend, I know that cuts out 90% of people, you got to play Abiotic Factor. So I've talked about this before, had an absolute blast. I've played through it roughly twice in what was its early access state with my brother. They just recently released Crush Depth, the newest content patch. This is Odd Realm that you're showing.
Yep.
There we go. Did we talk about Odd Realm?
No, you still have to talk about
That's
that.
okay.
That's why I had it pulled up.
Abiotic Factor. So what if Half-Life, but you were the old scientist? Right. Like I said, I've had a blast. You can go back through and listen if you want, again, my review, or just look them up. It's kind of one part Lethal Company, one part survival crafter, but kooky and fun, and also very Half-Life coded. They've added a lot of new content. The next major area is open. That probably means another 10 to 20 hours of gameplay, a whole new fishing mechanic. You can go underwater now, underwater exploration, which terrifies the hell out of me. You make sushi. They overhauled their temperature system to be much more consistent. They've added in new deployables such as auto salvagers, moisture teleporters, the portal toilet, radiation neutralizing neutrino emitters, and more absolute nonsense. That's what it says verbatim in the patch notes. Laser swords, new armor, new heavy weapons, jetpacks. You can drive the SUV now. Biomimic arm wraps with a question mark. Your skills can now go up to level 15. You could upgrade your benches in different ways. There's a whole new Warren area. They've added fog and new content and treasure chests and a lot of optimization and roughly 20 other honorable mention patch notes. And if you own the game, it's all free. This game is going to be a monster once it is 1.0. It's one of the better early access games I've ever played. What is there is immensely playable right now with very minimal bugs. I think it's fine and decent and probably playable single player. I don't think you would go amiss if that's your only option. But if you do have the option, play multiplayer, hop on a Discord, hop on the Reddit, find somebody to play it with, because it is an absolute hoot. Adam and I were literally just laughing out loud at times. They didn't remove the coworker. Still don't know what his deal is. He crawls around at night and begs for food and laughs a lot. I can't wait to figure out what his deal is.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's funny, as you were reading copy about new armor, it looks like they're showing off what may be Mjolnir armor from Halo.
Could be.
Yep.
Knockoff.
You said new armor. Well, I mean,
It's Lesnar
they
armor.
incorporate a lot of games in like other franchises in there, so I wouldn't. I could see them hinting at Mjolnir armor being available. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You got one mo.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, Abiotic, it's currently $19. It is absolutely worth it. So, recommend it. Odd Realm, one little game I've been following for a while. Came out way back in 2019. Odd Realm is a bit of a odd duck, a little gem in the rust. So you've heard about Dwarf Fortress and you want to try it, but good Lord, is there a learning curve? Because there is no bigger learning curve. You've heard about RimWorld. It's great, but everyone tells you need to install 200 mods and there's all these DLCs, right? And then you tried some other 4X games and you're like, okay, colony builders, but they all kind of fall a little flat. That's, I think, where Odd Realm comes in. Odd Realm manages to find a way to take a fantasy colony survival builder and give you close to the scope in a lot of ways of Dwarf Fortress, but also give you very powerful, robust UI and UX element tools to control and observe and adapt your gameplay that I don't really think has been matched by any other colony builder. This game, unfortunately, has a double-edged sword where its UI and its UX, because they're being so finely tuned to give you utter information and control, they change a lot, and they've changed quite frequently over the last couple of years to the point where every time I sit down to catch back up, I kind of have to relearn the UI.
Yeah.
But this game is being made by 3 people, one of which only does the audio. It is probably one of the hardest working, most active devs I've ever seen, to the point where I actually helped him figure out how to set up the initial blacksmithing with the anvils and how that works, like transitioning from copper to iron in real life. It took my suggestions, ran with it. They're in the game now.
Cool.
It's a fantastic game. The only problem is being a niche game, being in a very niche genre, and having been in early access forever. By the way, coming out 1.0 the 16th, which should be the day there's releases while I'm talking about it.
Yep.
There are next to no current tutorials. You can find tutorials how to play, but the UI is vastly different. That said, once it's out, I'm sure a lot of the indie YouTubers are going to pick it back up, give it a shot, and you can see them play through it. And the Discord is very, very helpful. But it is one of those games like RimWorld or Dwarf Fortress where you are going to be learning how to play it alongside playing it for days, if not weeks. But if you do that, like these kinds of games like RimWorld, it is very, very rewarding. One nice thing I liked about this game is it's kind of vaguely pulled away from the day-to-day minutia. You do still kind of tell people what to do, where to build. All the buildings are modular. But a lot of your population actually comes from succession, I should say. Having kids, them growing up, your parents dying and continuing. You can have multiple villages in the same world. They're adding more and more races, new content, more things underground. It is building up to be a very good game. And there's not a lot of games in this genre, and there's not a lot of great games in this genre. So for $20, you could easily spend a couple thousand hours in it if you like it.
Well, hot fucking damn.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly love the look of it, and the UI seems reasonable to me. Like, I'm sure there's a lot to learn. Obviously, these games
the
have
menus are
immense
complex
depth.
as hell, and they're very condensed.
Right.
But like once you learn them, you're super thankful for how much information. Like it makes even RimWorld look like it's being obtuse.
Okay.
Right. So yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, honestly, the way I figure it is if I can figure out the UI for Roller Coaster Tycoon, I can figure the UI out for anything, and because that's what I'm playing right now.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, you know, while my PC is in its current state with my C drive dead or dying.
Why not play the most optimized game ever made?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, hey. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Really appreciate you. Glad to be back. Glad to be talking about video games. We plan on being back next week. You never know, though. But yeah, we do plan on being back next week. Half-Life 3.
Yeah. I'm just glad to be off of Mr. Bones' wild ride.
That's a dick move, bro.
What?
You heard me. That's a dick move. I know exactly what that. I was like, why the fuck did he just randomly say Half-Life 3 right before we cut? Like
At the end of the sentence of my last sentence of the podcast, I waited about 1 second and I said Half-Life 3, and then you.
I do remember that, and I realized, he was probably trying to end the cast, but I was talking as I realized that.
Yep. Nope.
Yeah.
And then what I just said is make sure you stick around to the very end of the show where we talk Half-Life 3.
I missed that. I was too focused on not trying to mess up.
I'm not lying.
Oh, that's good.
I talked Half-Life 3.
that's.